So a question that I get asked an awful lot is, what's the difference between oracle cards and tarot cards, and what should I focus on? Now, I can't answer that last question, because really, whether tarot cards are your thing or whether oracle cards are better suited for you is really up for you to decide. So I can't answer that. But what I will share with you in this video, what the difference is between tarot cards and oracle cards, what I prefer and why. So before we talk about the difference between the two, what I do want to just touch on for a moment is intuition. So we are all intuitive. We're born with this ability. And for many of us, we either turn the volume down on that, or we've found a way to tune that out. We've got busy lives, busy brains, and so we're not paying attention to, or we're not listening to that intuitive information that's coming through to us. And this is where things like oracle cards and tarot cards come in, because it helps us to create a bridge between our conscious mind and our subconscious, or our higher self, or the Akashic record, or the universe, whatever language we put around that. But it is the place where all of that wisdom exists, and we are connected to that, and we can tap into that at any time. And so cards help us to do that. So let's talk about tarot cards first. So tarot cards are consistent in the number and their format and the meanings behind the different cards itself. So they are consistent the world over. And they're based on playing cards. They were the original tarot cards, and there's 78 cards in a tarot deck. So how tarot cards are organized, again, that's consistent no matter what type of tarot cards you pick up. So there's going to be archetypes. So that's archetypes like the Fool, the Magician. They're consistent with tarot cards, and the meaning behind each of those archetypes is consistent across decks. So along with the archetypes, the rest of the cards are organized into what's called major arcana and minor arcana. So for the major arcana, there are 22 cards, and if you were going to liken them to playing cards, so that's the knave, the queen, the king. So they're the equivalent of those in tarot cards. And again, they have a consistent meaning for tarot interpretation. Now, the minor arcana, there are 40 of those, and if you were going to liken them to playing cards, they would be the suits. So, in playing cards, you've got, kind of diamonds and spades, and in tarot, you have, wands and cups. So they're the suits, and they're called minor arcana. So for tarot, once you've learned to read tarot and interpret tarot, it really doesn't matter whatever the type of tarot that you pick up. And believe you me, there are lots of different types of tarot. It doesn't really matter. There is a universal understanding. There is a universal structure to tarot. Now, what I found about tarot when I was trying to learn how to read tarot is I got into a very left brain way of being when I was trying to read tarot. So I was trying to remember what each of the suits meant, what each of the archetypes meant. It really became an academic process. So I kind of lost the ability to tap into my intuition. And I have tried to read tarot for 20 plus years. I keep coming back to it, and I think it's not going to beat me this time, but for whatever reason, Tarot is not the way in which I can tap into that higher wisdom. It just doesn't work for me, and I'm always in awe of those wonderful tarot readers out there that, you know, it just oozes out of them, and they're able to tap in with this wonderful tarot set. So what I would say is, if you are drawn to tarot, please don't approach it like I've approached it, with this very kind of left brain logical each meaning. Don't let that get in the way of you tapping into your intuition, because that will not serve you. Find yourself a really good tarot teacher and enjoy the process. So this is the biggest difference between tarot cards and oracle cards, is the fact that they don't share this common structure and common understanding of what each of the cards are. There are so many different types of oracle decks out there, from, you know, fairies to crystals to unicorns to mermaids to goddesses to everything under the sun. I go to a card warehouse to stock my shop, and I'm always just giddy with the number and the different types of decks, and there are new ones that are being produced every day. So you will not be spoiled for choice with oracle decks. There are so many out there. In fact, sometimes it just becomes a very, you know, dizzying choice to make, because there's so many of them. So let's talk a little bit about oracle cards then. So they do have different themes. They have, you know, kind of different mythology behind them, and that really helps you to kind of hone in on your choice. So if you're somebody who works with goddess energy, then you might be drawn to goddess oracle cards. If you are enamored with the fae, you might be drawn to fairy oracle cards. I've said it before and I'll say it again, a big lover of crystals. So my oracle cards tend to be focused on two different mythologies. One, crystals. So I have quite a few crystal decks, but I'm also an earth-based practitioner as well. So I really do enjoy the earth-based inspired and the witchy inspired oracle cards as well. So you will find a deck that you enjoy, that you can feel connected to. And I'll talk a little bit about, you know, choosing your tarot or your oracle cards later. So oracle cards will have, you know, a different, you know, number of oracle cards in the deck. So where tarot has a specific number, so 78 cards, that's not the same with oracle. Some do use 78 cards, but for some it's less, for some it's more. There is no consistent approach to oracle cards. And in some ways, you know, I think that's pretty freeing. If you're going to make your own oracle cards, then, you know, they can number however you want them to number. So oracle cards will tend to have an image, so some sort of picture. They may have a word or two on there, or a sentence. Sometimes they don't, and each card will be numbered. Now, oracle cards also come with an explanation booklet. There may well be different layouts that you can use with that set of oracle cards, and also a description of what each of those oracle cards mean. But that's from the perspective of the person who created those oracle cards. What I like to do is to try and lean into my own interpretation of the oracle cards. I'm not going to be so driven by what that person said that card's about. I'm going to use the imagery. I'm going to use maybe the word. I'm going to use even the number of the card to really help me to kind of tap in and interpret what that card is meaning for me. I'm also not going to be bound so much by, different layouts and spreads. There's just a very, I often use a very simple 3-card layout that just kind of helps me get a handle on the question that I'm asking. And then, I might pull, more cards, 3 at a time to get some more clarity. So I don't use a specific layout for my reading. So for me, oracle cards just allow me to tap into my intuition a little bit more fully. I don't feel, and this is just me personally, I don't feel constrained by the author's interpretation. I can use the imagery to tap into what I believe that card is saying to me. So that's why I tend to, in fact, exclusively work with oracle cards as opposed to tarot cards. So as I said before, there is just a dizzying choice of either tarot cards or oracle cards that you can make, and sometimes it's hard to make a decision because there's just so many wonderful decks out there. What I would say is just be centered and grounded, and just spend a little bit of time holding the deck, maybe looking at the imagery, just seeing what's coming up for you, and be guided by how you feel as you are, holding and looking at the deck. If you want to peek into the instructions booklet, then do that as well. Again, it just kind of helps you get a good understanding of what the deck is about. So once you've chosen your deck, what I like to do is make sure that I clear it. So we buy these decks either online or in a shop, and lots of people may have handled them, and we don't know what their energy was as they were handling the deck. So what we want to do is make sure that we clear it. Now, clearing it could be as simple as holding the deck in your hand and knocking it with your knuckles, just seeing that energy fall out of it. Or you can do something a little bit more elaborate. I tend to do something a little bit more elaborate when when I've bought a new deck. So I will place it on my altar for a day or two. I'll put some clear quartz on top of it and kind of surrounding it, and just allow the energy to be transmuted through that process. Some people like to run the cards through some smudge smoke, so maybe sage or another herb or some incense smoke. Whatever you feel comfortable with is fine. I tend to use my altar because that's charged with energy, and so not only is it going to clear the deck, but it's also going to charge it as well. I also like to dedicate my deck. I dedicate any of my tools that I work with, and decks are no exception. So I like to hold it to my heart and kind of ask it, almost create a partnership for how I want to work with the deck. So I always want the deck to be truthful with me. I always want the deck to come from a place of love, and I always want the deck to be a bridge to my higher self, my wisdom. So I just have that little conversation with the deck while I'm holding it to my heart. I also like to, in that process, go through each of the cards individually. Not only does it, kind of create an energetic bond to each of the cards, but it also connects me. It also, again, establishes that partnership with each of the cards. So I get to know each one personally. So I can look at the imagery, I can maybe read the description, I can maybe make a few notes about what it is that the cards, each individual card means for me. It's a really lovely process for journaling as well, as you're looking at each card and you're allowing the connection to be established. And after all that, you are ready to read your cards. So how you do that, again, you know, you can use in the guidebook, you can use the layouts that are suggested by the author, or you can do a simple, you know, one card pull, you know, each day, just to see what, you know, what wisdom you need to hear today. You can do something like I do, where you pull 3 cards and then, you know, kind of keep pulling to get more clarity on the situation. So you can go into it with a specific question, or you can go into it with, what is it that I need to know? It doesn't have to look any particular way. Now, a phenomena that I've seen happen a lot is people will say to me, you know, I don't know what's going on with my deck, but every time I pull cards, I'm pulling the same cards. And my response to that is, well, you're not listening to what the cards are asking of you, or telling you, or sharing wisdom with you. So as soon as you put into action what the cards are saying, you probably won't get them again. And I remember I was teaching an oracle card reading workshop, and there was one student there who wasn't quite sure that, you know, she believed in oracle cards or not, and so I, you know, taught her the process. So she had, in a reading maybe of she had about 20 cards. I would say there was, you know, 18 of them really kind of resonated for her, and she said, I'm going to do that again. And so she did it again, and all 18 of the cards came up again for her. And then she said to me, I just don't believe that this is happening. So would you read for me? So I shuffled, I did all of the, you know, all of the stuff that you would normally do, and I pulled probably about 15 of the 18 cards. So that was 3 separate occasions on the same night that she was getting the same cards. So she was pretty blown away by that, and she certainly understood the messages, and started to put some of that into action as well. So that was quite an amazing experience, really. The other thing that I see happening a lot is, you know, a card will jump out, or it'll fall on the floor, and it's always important to read those, because they, you know, they kind of made themselves known for a reason. So, you know, as long as it just wasn't a bad shuffle and you've dropped them all, but, you know, very often 1 or 2 will kind of pop out, fall out, and they're important to read as well. So for tarot cards, very often they have a, you know, an upright meaning and an inverted meaning, which means if you pull the card and it's upside down, there's the kind of the opposite to the right way up meaning. And some oracle cards follow that as well. Some authors choose to create the, you know, 2 different meanings based on whether or not you pull the card upright or inverted. I don't ascribe to that, because very often the inverted tends to be a more of a negative type of card. And, you know, I honestly don't ascribe to negativity in this process. So I don't read it from an inverted perspective. But again, that is absolutely up to you. If reading a different interpretation because of how you've pulled the card upright or not works for you, then go ahead, carry on doing that. It just doesn't work for me, so I read them all as if they were upright with no difference there. So I am going to give you a little bit of a demonstration. I'm going to pull a couple of cards and interpret them for you. I am somebody who learns by seeing, so I think this is going to be useful if that's how you learn as well. So I have chosen this deck to do a little demo with. It's the Crystal Ally cards by Naisha Asian, and I absolutely love this crystal deck. If you haven't come across it, then I would highly recommend it. I mean, you know, it comes with such an amazing fulsome book with all sorts of information. There's meditations and different things. So it's got a very extensive guidebook with it, and you can also use them in crystal therapies and treatments, and you can go into this deck in a lot of depth, or you can just read them in a very simple way, and that's what we're going to do today. So first thing I'm going to do is just knock any of the old energy out, and then I'm going to give them a shuffle. Now, oracle cards tend to be rather large, so sometimes it's hard to shuffle them. So there's a quick shuffle there, and then I'm going to just split the deck, and then I'm just going to take 3 cards. And as I said before, I don't read inverted. So there we have our 3 cards here. So we've got forgiveness, we've got male power, and we've got nurture. And the purpose, the intention that I set for this this reading was, what message do you need to hear? Whoever you are, you know, kind of listening to this video at whatever time, you know, what is the message? And, you know, so this is I think it's the 12th of June 2020 when I'm doing this, and, you know, so much has happened in the world. And I think that the cards are really speaking to this, and I want to give my interpretation for these. Now, with a 3-card reading, what you can do is read it from kind of left to right, with the first one being the past, the middle one being the present, and the third one being the future. Or you can just read them together in their entirety, and just almost like tell the story of the of what the cards are telling you. And I think that's how I'm going to read this today. And, you know, as I look at the first card there, if I hold it up, forgiveness, dioptase, beautiful imagery there. But what comes up for me as we're, you know, as I'm looking at that, and bearing in mind, you know, it's June 2020, and what's happening in the world at this time, I think if there is any time for forgiveness, then it is absolutely this time. You know, I think that we are on the cusp of something huge, and coming at it from a place of forgiveness, I think is going to help us to move forward significantly. So for me, that's what that card is all about. It's just individually, wherever we're at in our journey, just allowing that that forgiveness to happen. Now, I'm also going to just tap into the meaning in the book as well, and just share that with you. And so I'm just looking for it now. Here we go. So this talks about polarities of energy and spirit joining together, and the healing of duality. So when one is in conflict with another, one is reacting to something within one's own self that has not been forgiven and integrated into the whole. Now, we can interpret that as an individual, but we can also interpret that as a collective. And, you know, I think there's some really significant meaning in all of that. So then when we move on to pyrite, so male power. And so when I, you know, so here we go. This isn't a I'm not speaking from a place of being sexist, but you know, there is a certain energy to male power which is very different to female power. We certainly have you know, our society has developed in a very male-centric way. And, you know, I think there is a huge opportunity to bring balance by, you know, introducing the feminine into our society in a more conscious, in a more conscious way. And so I think that this is a call to action. It's not about male energy being wrong and female energy being right, but it is about balance, and how do we bring that balance into society to help us move forwards. So if we look at what the author of the deck is talking about, she says that pyrite hangs in the sky, reflecting golden light and manifesting the energy of the solar male aspect of the earth element. In order to create life or to function in life, one must have a balance of male and female energy, and that's absolutely what I took from that card. It is about how do we introduce female energy and bring it into balance. Because, you know, this is going to enable us to move forwards in a more proactive, kind and compassionate way. And then the final card is Larimar, which is nurture. And interestingly enough, Larimar comes from the Caribbean, an island in the Caribbean. It's mined in 1 kilometre square, so it is unique to that area, which I think is such a wonderful snippet about that stone. It's called the Dolphin Stone, because it's so much connected to the water. And so, you know, when you think about water and the element of water, and how, you know, emotions are so connected with that, you can see why nurture is the key word there. And I think that's, you know, that's a message for humanity, in that we need to bring a more nurturing aspect to the community. So, you know, this card is very much, you know, female. So when you look at the previous card, male card, the male power, and the female, more nurturing energy, you can see how that is being advocated through the cards. And yeah, I think it's just about, you know, allowing us to express our emotions, and, you know, whether those emotions are, you know, angry emotions is what we're seeing, you know, now. And, you know, I totally can see that and get it. So it's just allowing us to be authentic with those emotions and working through them, because then we can bring that water element in to kind of calm and to soothe and to nurture, and help us move through this in a way that people feel comforted and cared for. So I think that this is a very important spread. I think it certainly is a call to action in terms of how we want to show up in this world, how we want to be, you know, an individual as part of community, and allow ourselves and each other to heal. So there you have it. That is the reading. Hopefully you found it of benefit. You got something out of it, and whether that was my interpretation or whether you saw those cards and had your own interpretation, that's absolutely fine as well. So it also hopefully gave you a little bit of insight in how you kind of create the narrative around the card, so that you can derive the meaning from that as you're tapping into your intuition. So I hope as always, that this video has inspired you. I hope it's given you a little bit of knowledge, maybe some confidence to have a go and to play with some cards yourself, whether that's tarot, whether that's oracle. And if you like this video, please consider subscribing and hitting the bell. You'll be notified when more videos are uploaded. And if you think that this video will be of benefit to somebody that you know, please share it. You know, I want to build the community. I want to get this knowledge and wisdom out there. So thanks for being part of it, and don't hesitate to pop a comment below.